Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim unveiled his long-anticipated cabinet reshuffle earlier today, with a number of individuals making a return to the administration. In total, Anwar's new cabinet lineup sees an overall increase of 3 new ministers' posts from 28 to 31 and 2 new deputy ministers' posts from 27 to 29, bringing the total number of people in the federal administration to 60. However, the latest tally is still lower than the number of those appointed by the previous administration at 70. The decision to split the Ministry of Communications and Digital is to address both communication issues and digital transformation in a more effective and proper manner, says Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim. The Communications Ministry will be headed by former Communication and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadzil, while the Digital Ministry will be under the purview of Damansara MP and former Communications and Multimedia Minister Gobind Singh Deo.
My view is communications with the media, with the social media, is also a challenge. And the criticism that has been levied against us is that while some of the policies are impressive, the communications to impart and disseminate the information has not been that effective or satisfactory. So there must be this focus. The issue of digital digital transformation is a major focus of this government, and it has to be conducted in a manner that is focused. The issue of digital is challenging, is changing. There are new data centers, new interest in AI. The need to enhance the understanding of students at various levels. So it's a very challenging task, and I believe that to focus on this particular issue is daunting for us.
One of the headlines from this cabinet reshuffle is the return of Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad to the health portfolio. We speak to analyst from Bau Group Asia, Arina Najwa Ahmad Said, for her thoughts on this change, as well as what can Malaysia expect from the new cabinet lineup.
I think with regards to this, reshuffle of cabinet, I think some surprises and also mixed reviews. I think firstly, we saw the return of Dr. Zulkifli. I think that was well received. And I think there's been a lot of speculation on whether MOH would have been changed. And I think that was one that was well received by the public because Dr. Zul has helmed this role before. And he's also a very respected person and a respected politician. So I think who has experienced, Malaysia, MOH at a very crucial time as well. So I think that's a good call, and I think people are excited. I foresee Dr. Zul, and especially if you've seen how he performed in BH 1.0 the first time round, I think he will try and hit the ground running. I mean, he was familiar. So before the government change, he was already familiar with COVID and he was already tackling it. So a little bit before the government change. So I think right now it's about, executing things and just getting things running. So I think we can expect that from him.
Meanwhile, Arina also highlighted the decision to split the Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Ministry, which will be helmed by Nik Nazmi Nik Ahmad and the Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof.
I think one is we definitely can see a lot. I would expect a stronger voice from Sabah and Sarawak on energy-related matters because we saw the Deputy Prime Minister now also hold the energy transition role. So it's a bit of a split from NREC Ministry. So I think that that's a huge thing, especially when they launched the energy transition roadmap. So I think we can see a stronger voice from that region, especially when you're looking to energy transition as a national agenda. So I think that's one. Second is in terms of MOF's direction in terms of consolidation. So I think we're looking at how I think a lot of people or experts are expecting that, with Ame in, there'll be a lot more fiscally responsible decisions. I think he's from EPF, so he kind of also takes a more rakyat-minded kind of approach, and that may be translated into some of MOF's policy. So I think those two main things, I think we can expect some changes.
There were also some criticism on the inclusion of Lim Hui Ying, sister of former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng, into the finance portfolio. How will the new Deputy Finance Minister affect the coalition dynamics? Arna Najwa weighs in.
Amongst all of these changes, I think some positive, some negative. I think there's been some comments with regards to Hui Ying's appointment as Deputy Finance Minister. As we're all aware, Lim Guan Eng previously held that role as a minister, within the Ministry of Finance, and now there's been comments saying that DAP and Lim Guan Eng's family is to be contained within the Ministry of Finance, and whether or not that's a good or bad thing. I think some of the naysayers are questioning that decision. So I think for her, again, she has not had a full ministerial role, and it's still an early foray for her in politics. But I think optics-wise, I think it's fair for people to have those criticisms and to be a bit skeptical. But ultimately, she is a deputy minister and will have to answer to MOF, both her bosses, the Minister of Finance and Minister of Finance too. So I think it still will be contained, and the Prime Minister will still be able to drive the direction of the ministry together with
In other news, the government will set up a task force to speed up procurement approvals for the country's security forces. Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim said Treasury Secretary General Dato' Johan Mahmud Marakan had been instructed to monitor the task force to ensure approvals for the purpose are expedited. Anwar said the move is to ensure that the country's security forces can carry out their duties properly. He added that the procurement system for the national security forces had to be revamped to make it more transparent. The current procurement system, he said, is quite weak. In some instances, procurement is made, but the goods are not obtained, and that there are a lot of leakages. We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Apa jua yang berlaku di sekeliling kita, pastinya ada punca dan kesan masing-masing. Faktor harga ekonomi, pengaruh politik dalam atau luar negara memberikan impak kepada kehidupan harian kita. Di Niaga Awani kami memberikan gambaran jelas melalui analisis mendalam, merentas pelbagai segmen dan latar belakang. Kami akan bantu anda untuk faham segalanya. Bisnes, ekonomi, pasaran, Niaga Awani, 9 pagi Isnin hingga Jumaat, hanya di Astro Awani.
Daulat Tuanku.
Welcome back. The United Nations has warned that every single Palestinian in Gaza is going hungry as Israel continues its deadly bombardment of the enclave. This comes as the UN General Assembly prepared to vote on an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the 2-month-old conflict between Israel and Hamas. Hundreds more civilians have died in Israel's assault on Gaza since the US vetoed a Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire last Friday. Israel has been targeting Gaza's main southern city of Khan Yunis, now the epicenter of the fighting, as well as Rafah, a city on the border with Egypt, where tens of thousands of people are seeking shelter. The 193-member General Assembly member is likely on Tuesday to pass a draft resolution for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. General Assembly resolutions are not binding, but carry political weight and reflect global views. Meanwhile, a top Japanese minister embroiled in allegations of missing funds survived a no-confidence motion today. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida maintained that he would like his chief cabinet secretary, Hirokazu Matsuno, to stay in his role despite reports that he may be axed in an imminent cabinet reshuffle. The motion against Matsuno, brought by the main opposition party, was defeated by 278 votes to 166. Matsuno is a powerful figure who coordinates government policy on behalf of Kishida. He is alleged to have received 10 million yen in undeclared political funds. Local media reported that Matsuno was among 4 cabinet ministers who could be replaced as early as December 13th, as Kishida attempts to restore confidence in the government. Kishida and his ruling Liberal Democratic Party are facing an investigation into allegations that party lawmakers, including Matsuno, underreported income from political fundraising events. Recent polls show support for Kishida's government at around 23%, the lowest since he took office in late 2021. Australia's northeastern regions are bracing for the arrival of tropical cyclone Jasper, which is expected to bring destructive winds and flash floods. The Category 2 storm has been slowly churning across the Coral Sea, with the center of the cyclone expected to hit the country's east coast on Wednesday. The northeastern tourist cities of Cairns and Port Douglas, both gateways to the Great Barrier Reef, sit in the path of the storm. Meteorologists predict winds of 140 kilometers per hour, heavy rain and possible storm tides. Australia's Weather Bureau said there was a possibility of destructive gusts that can bring down tree limbs, whole trees and power lines. Authorities warn of damage to fences, roofs and other property, urging residents to tie down loose items before the storm arrives. Flood watches are in place for rivers across the region and power has preemptively been cut to areas where damage is expected. Myanmar has overtaken Afghanistan to become the world's top producer of opium. According to a report by the United Nations, domestic instability in Myanmar drove many to poppy farming. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime report said that opium cultivation in Afghanistan declined by 95%. This was following a drug ban by the Taliban in 2022 that has seen global supply shifted to Myanmar. According to the report, Myanmar farmers now earn about 75% more from opium poppy farming, as average prices of the flower have reached about $355 per kilogram, and the cultivation area has increased by 18% year-on-year. It added that the surge in fighting between the Myanmar military and armed ethnic minority groups will most likely accelerate the expansion of opium cultivation. That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.